The U.S. government wouldn't pass a bill that was specifically aimed at stopping criticism of the U.S. government, would they? They wouldn't pass a bill that was specifically aimed at making sure that we couldn't communicate with one another or engage in free speech to hold them accountable for their bad performance in their jobs, would they? Oh, wait, they did that with the TikTok ban. They wouldn't be trying to pass another bill right now, H.R. 6090, to chill free speech on college campuses all across the United States, putting an end to the protests that are drawing attention to their conduct, would they? Well, they're trying to do it right now, and it is Take Action Tuesday. I have some simple steps you can take part, make your voices heard, and we need your help. Let's get into it. Today, we are taking a look at H.R. 6090, which is titled the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act of 2023. It has broad bipartisan support, and on May 1st, overwhelmingly passed the House of Representatives 320 to 91, with approximately 70 nays from the Democrats and 21 nays from the Republicans, all of them citing free speech infringement as their reason for voting no on this bill. Now, what's interesting about the introduction of this bill is that Title VI in the United States already protects against discrimination on the basis of religion, origin, and what this bill actually does is it expands the definition of anti-Semitism and conforms to the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance's working definition of anti-Semitism. I personally believe that anti-Semitism has no place in American discourse. I personally believe that it is vulgar, disgusting, and I adamantly oppose any use or engagement in anti-Semitism in America. Full stop. But what really concerns me is not that they've expanded the definition to include the IHRA's working definition, but that they are also relying on the 11 contemporary examples of anti-Semitism provided by the IHRA. Now, if you look here, this is the working definition provided by the IHRA, stating that anti-Semitism is a certain perception of Jews which may be expressed as hatred toward Jews. Rhetorical and physical manifestations of anti-Semitism are directed towards Jewish or non-Jewish individuals and or their property, toward Jewish communities, institutions, and religious facilities. Defines anti-Semitism. Now, if you see here, this says this is a non-legally binding working definition, but to codify this into law would make this a legally binding definition. It's not the definition that is giving all of our legislators and so many other free speech advocates pause. It's that when you read their 11 examples, as seen here and here, pretty much all free speech advocates, including the 91 individuals in the House that voted against it, state that this will lead to censorship issues on college campuses and beyond. One of the most important speeches during the discussion on H.R. 6090 in the House came from Representative Jerry Nadler of New York, who said there's no excuse for bigotry, threats of violence directed at anyone, anywhere, and it's imperative that we confront the scourge of anti-Semitism, and Congress can help. But this legislation is not the answer. Because those working definitions in those 11 examples state basically that any criticism of Israel is anti-Semitic and considered the same as criticism of Jewish people as a whole. It says here, he says, speech that is critical of Israel alone does not constitute unlawful discrimination. This bill sweeps too broadly. Now, we haven't needed a working expanded definition because the Education Department has launched probe after probe after probe alleging anti-Semitism and Islamophobia on college campuses since long before this new bill was introduced, because this is already protected under Title VI. The American Civil Liberties Union, which is supposed to be one of the most staunch defenders of free speech, has come out categorically opposed to this bill, stating that federal law already prohibits anti-Semitic discrimination and harassment, and that it's not needed to protect against anti-Semitic discrimination. Instead, it will chill free speech of students on college campuses by incorrectly equating criticism of the Israeli government with anti-Semitism. And while the ACLU regularly defends people that are harmed by anti-Semitism, they say we wholly support efforts to fight discrimination and harassment through Title VI complaints and investigations. We strongly oppose use of IHRA definitions or any definition that threatens to censor or penalize political speech protected by the First Amendment. That's because since 1927, it has been broadly accepted that the interpretation of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, our First Amendment, states that our First Amendment shall not be infringed. It doesn't allow for any caveats thereafter. And Walter Brandeis wrote the controlling opinion in a landmark case, Whitney v. California, in 1927, where he introduced what's known as the counter-speech doctrine. Now, the counter-speech doctrine, when you look at it, he says, if there be a time to expose through discussion the falsehoods and fallacies, to avert the evil by discussion or by processes of education, the remedy to be applied is more speech, not enforced silence. Since 1927, it has been agreed by every Supreme Court justice since then in every major decision that the answer to hateful speech is never censorship of that speech. In fact, it's the opposite. It's the encouragement of more speech, saying that the non-hateful voices will drown out the hateful speech, and that by chilling speech, by censoring speech, we're foregoing and creating a slippery slope where our First Amendment rights can be violated over and over and over again. Now, for anybody who's wondering if I only feel this way because it's about this particular issue, my answer is that I categorically denounce anti-Semitism. I categorically denounce it in every form, every format, every way that it can be brought out. But I will fight for anyone's right to say hateful things and to disagree with me, because our First Amendment is the most important right that we have in the United States. I've stated over and over again recently on the news when referencing the TikTok ban that the free speech, our First Amendment, is the right, the bedrock upon which the house of all of our other rights is built. And that's because without free speech, freedom of the press, and freedom to protest, we don't have the ability to enforce, protect, or act on behalf of all of our other rights to enforce them. Now, this has been my Bird app profile since 2011. 13 and a half years, this has been my profile. And if you look here, it says, I like my politics like I like my Merlot, deep inky purple and well-balanced. Free speech advocate, I'll fight for your right to disagree with me. And I believe it. I believe it with every inch of my being. I believe that. I believe that your right to disagree with me is what makes America great. It's what makes America different. And it's the reason that we are a citizenry that is capable of immense growth, that we are a country that is adaptable, and that we are that beacon on a hill that is worthy of protection. For any of you that are interested in how your representative voted, this is a list of all of the nays, and I've provided a link so that you can check it out to see how your representatives voted. But what are we going to do? How are we going to get into this and start to fight before it gets to this? Well, the person that drafted the bill in this CNN article said that Tim Scott would introduce the Senate's companion bill, calling on Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer to take action. Now, you look here, he stated, and I quote, "It's up to Chuck Schumer, the highest-ranking Jewish official in America and in American history, to do something and bring this bill for a vote on the Senate floor, urging the Senate to quickly act on it." I want to stress again, anti-Semitism is wrong. Islamophobia is wrong. If you look back at historical instances of protests on college campuses in America, you usually fall on the right side of history when you stand with students that stand up for what they believe in. Immense things, mountains have been moved, change has been made that began with college protests. Now, it's never okay to destroy property. It's never okay to act unlawfully. It's never okay to put your hands on another citizen. But chilling free speech is not the answer. And so for those of you that have something to say about it and would like to call Chuck Schumer or would like to call your senators, I have put this link in my bio. Now, you can track this bill through that link. You can see how everyone has voted. You can see summaries of the bill. You can see textual changes. And you can click this blue button right here or any of the next 3 links, and you can contact your senators and let them know that you oppose the passage of HR 6090, and you can state that you protect free speech and that you believe that free speech needs protection, that the right to protest needs protection, and that our students on college campuses are not pawns to be meddled with. Our free speech and any infringement upon it is a slippery slope that has never in history ever been good. Any government that supported the suppression of speech generally was headed in a direction that was not for their people. A government that has nothing to hide has nothing to censor. They don't need to censor us because they don't have to be afraid of what we're saying about the job they're doing. So on today's Take Action Tuesday, click the link in my bio, contact your senators, let them know that you do not support HR 6090 and stand for free speech, just like we're standing against the TikTok ban, which is another infringement of our free speech. If you're new here, my name is Tiffany, and we work together to fight private equity, to save small businesses in our community, and to protect the rights that allow us to do that through this app and in every other way that we're allowed to use our voices in America. Thanks for being here. It's going to take all of us, and I'm so glad you're here.